Hey guys, what's up? My name is Sarah and I am a pre-PA student. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I earned A's in Anatomy and Physiology 1 and 2 while being an undergrad. So just a little background about me. I was never an A student. Like I would get C's, D's sometimes in high school. I didn't know how to study. And I noticed that my biggest problem was because I was passively studying instead of actively studying. Now, the difference between actively studying is you're actively reviewing the material. So you're asking yourself questions. You're not just reading over. You're not rewriting your notes. You're not just highlighting. You're actually reading the information, making a question, and seeing if you can answer it. And that's what I really like about active studying, because you actually retain the information way more and longer than if you passively study. Although it takes a little bit more time to actively study, it's 100% worth it in the long run, especially if you're a STEM student like me. I'm going to break down my steps into 4 steps, and one of them is actually optional. So the first one is you have to attend the lecture. This is where you're seeing the material for the first time. You're in person, you're listening, you're seeing what's on the lecture, and you're even writing stuff down. So when you are attending lecture, I found that was really useful was using my iPad. What I would do is I would download the lecture slides from Canvas and I would upload them to my iPad using GoodNotes. GoodNotes is a really well-known app for taking notes. And you can even record the lecture, which I really like about that app. I did pay $10, but it was a one-time payment. Not sure if that's different now or not, but that's what it was for me when I got it. And I found that it was super useful to just have those lecture slides in front of me, record them, and annotate anything that I thought the professor said was really important. I could also highlight things that were already on the slide, circle, and it's just really like, it was engaging, so I was never really bored in the lecture because I was always doing something, whether it was highlighting, circling, writing my own little notes in there. And if you don't have an iPad, what my friend would do, she would print out the lecture slides and she would bring the physical paper copy in and just use different colored pencils, and she would do the same thing I would do. And she says that this method worked really well for her because it's the same thing except it's more physical, instead mine was more electronic. Step 2, after the lecture, this is called like your little research time. So you're gonna do this right after the lecture if you have time. If not, you're gonna do it as soon as you can within the same day, so you have that information and it's still fresh in your brain. So what I did is I used Google Doc. You can use Word if you want, whatever you like, but I like Google Doc a lot. So I would make a Google Doc and I would title it Exam 1 Study Guide, because this is the material that basically is going to be in the comprehensive exam, the first exam. So what I would do was I would listen back to the recording, and it's cool because on GoodNotes, when you're listening to the recording, you can actually see in real time when you would write down your little notes, and it's all there like together, the slides, the recording, your annotations. So I would listen to it and I would write down all the annotations that I put down in like an organized, fashionable way. And also I would write down anything that was on the lecture slides that I thought was really important. I would add pictures. I would type in things that were said in the recording that I didn't get to write down. So this is why recording is super important too, because you're not going to be able to write down everything that the professor's saying. And this is neat because then you can go back and listen to it in real time. So then this is like your study guide. This is your electronic study guide where you have pictures, you have your own annotations, you have stuff that's on the lecture slides. This part is the most crucial because you can do your own research. So this is why it's called research, because you can go, if you don't understand what was said in the lecture, what's on the slides, this is your time and your opportunity to go to the professor's office hours, to read in your textbook, or to even like search up using Google, AI. I found that AI was a really useful tool, especially for anatomy, because I would ask it a question and it would break it down for me, simplify it, and I would be able to understand it. Of course, I wasn't dependent on it. I used it as a tool to explain because AI is not going to take my test for me. But it did help me understand, because anatomy can be so complex, and so it helped me understand these complex anatomical concepts. My preference, I didn't really watch a lot of YouTube videos because I feel like they kind of just ramble on or just like go off topic. So in this step, you really just want to get as much info as you can really and condense it into this Google Doc. So step 3, this is the optional one. I did do this in my anatomy 1 and 2 because I had the time, but it is very time consuming. So if you don't have the time, don't worry, you're still gonna get the same results. So this step is basically getting a little notebook and writing down everything you have in your electronic study guide into a physical notebook. And I thought this was really neat because not only are we just reviewing again the information, but now you're actually physically writing it. And again, this might feel a little passive because you're literally just rewriting your notes, but this is just more for like retaining, engaging with the material. I also really like to draw like little pictures in my notebook, and I would highlight, use different color pencils. It's nice. You can take it anywhere. Again, you can also take the electronic study guide with you anywhere you go. Like you can have it on your phone or your computer, iPad, but just having that notebook, it's nice. Like I thought it was almost like kind of therapeutic. I would like listen to podcasts while I was writing my notes, and it's a way to really engage with the material, but again, it's optional. I actually didn't do that step when I took microbiology. I did all the other steps and didn't do the notebook step because I didn't have time, and I ended up getting an A in microbio too. So it's really up to you if you have the time, if you want to engage with the material a little bit more, understand a little bit better. My last step, step 4, this is really, really important. This is not optional. It is to make practice questions. My biggest tip is to make your own practice questions. I didn't like using others people practice questions. I didn't like to use preset Quizlets, and I definitely did not like using AI to make up practice questions because I feel like if you're using someone else's or you're asking AI to make your practice questions, you're not really engaging with the information. So like I would look in my notes and there would be something that was on the lecture, right? And then I would make a question from it, like explain why this happens. I would just, you see, like I would just go and make so many questions and then make sub questions of a question. And they don't even have to be questions. They can literally be like, I wrote down function of the gallbladder, parentheses 3, because there's 3 functions of the gallbladder. And then underneath it, what controls the release of bile in the gallbladder? I would also put open-ended, and I would make a lot of questions. Like this has 20 questions, but definitely more because it's all like sub questions relating to it. This step is really important, so good for recalling, retaining the information, actively studying your material, because now you're looking at your notes. You can look at your Google Doc, you can look at your physical notebook and make these questions from it, and now you can look back. I used Google Doc to make these questions, and it's just the questions. There's no answers there or nothing because I've tried using Quizlet to make like the electronic flashcards, but I feel like it's just really time consuming, especially for the amount of questions that I make, because I make like really specific questions. I didn't like using Quizlet because then you would have to write a lot for the definition, and it was just so time consuming. By the time I was done making my Quizlet, I'm like, I spent all this time, didn't really retain anything. But while you're making the questions, you're in the Google Doc, you're continuously looking at your notes, looking back at your Google Doc and being like, okay, I can answer this. And that's what I like about the questions and the having it in a Google Doc and not having the answers, because let's say you actually don't know the answer to it, you can always go back to your notebook or go back to your Google Doc where you have all that information that we did in step 2, where it was our research step, and you have this answer with so much detail in it, and you are able to retain it a lot better. But that's just like my preference. If someone likes to use Quizlet better, then go for it, or Anki. I've never tried using Anki. I know a lot of medical and pre-PA students use it too. I might have to learn how to use it in the future, but for now, I'm good using my Google Doc as just putting it on and just rambling on my questions and doing it that way. And I would do this step in microbiome as well, and I got an A. So that has really helped me a lot. So I hope these 4 simple steps, yet they're really, you have to put a lot of effort into it. You know, if you want a good grade, you have to put in your effort. It's not gonna come just willy-nilly. I would go to my professor's office hours, I would see her, and I would study like so much in the day. Now I got a higher GPA than what I really wanted to. I started off with a 2.9 my sophomore year and ended with a 3.3. Studied my butt off because I really wanted a high GPA for PA school. And this study method really helped me a lot in college as a health science student. And so I hope it really helps you guys too. Thanks for watching.